Strategic action, one that is oriented toward the subject, is motivated by particular and egotistic interests, is, according to Habermas, an obstacle to unimpeded exercise of communicative reason. In setting the strategic reason in opposition to the communicative reason, Habermas follows the dualistic pattern that recognizes the subject and the object as ontologically separate and diametrically opposed to each other. This opposition is characteristic for the entire Enlightenment tradition. The Enlightenment tradition offers no rational justification or empirical verification for this proposition, but accepts it as foundationally given, or what Kant called synthetic a priori judgment, or what we commonly call self-evident truth. The absence of rational justification and empirical verification for the proposition signals a fundamental lack of control in the entire edifice of the Enlightenment tradition. The fact that the Enlightenment tradition does not provide a rational justification for the subject-object relationship does not mean that this relationship cannot be justified. In fact, one can provide a rational justification and empirical verification for the view opposite to the one in the Enlightenment tradition. This view states that the subject and the object are not ontologically separate, but rather they're closely related to each other. They both come from the same source, the process of creation. Indeed, our comprehension of reality requires the creation of mental structures capable of interpreting electric signals that we receive from our senses. Thus, in order to comprehend reality, we need to construct our mental structures that allow us to interpret electrical signals in our brain, which means that as we construct our mental structures, what we commonly identify as our self, we construct at the same time that we see as external reality. Without such interpretation, we would not be able to see anything. The fact that we see reality rather than see nothing is a logical proof that there is a fundamental connection between our inner self and external reality, between subject and object. Piaget, in his studies of the origin of intelligence in children, provides an empirical evidence for this theoretical proposition. As we change our mental construct, we also change our conception of reality and vice versa. Thus, we have a rational justification and empirical verification for the proposition that the subject and the object are not opposed to each other, but are actually very much. Habermas embraces Piaget's theory. However, in appropriating Piaget, he departs from the original. His perspective does not include the process of creation that is central to Piaget. In contrast to Piaget, Habermas completely disregards the process of creation and posits the conscious, rational intellect, product of this process, as the primary ontological reality. In other words, reason, the product, emerges as a primary ontological reality in its absolute and universal capacity. As a result, Habermas relegates the subjective side of reason, individual consciousness, to a secondary, subordinate, and consequently less important role. That is why he thinks of the subjective manifestations of the self, such as gender, ethnicity, culture, etc., as inferior to what he sees as the ultimate ontological reality, the objective. In other words, denigrates the subjective. This denigration breeds the exclusion of various forms that our subjective self may take as less essential and less important. And exclusion, as Habermas agrees, is the source of domination. Thus, by excluding the process of creation from its frame of vision, the Enlightenment tradition produces an incomplete and very defective view of reality, a view that opens the path to exclusion and its product, domination. But is there a way of resolving the problem of? Can we realize the emancipation? As has been argued, can trace the persistence of exclusion in Habermas's theory, and by extension in the Enlightenment tradition, to one fundamental cause: the failure to make the process of creation the focal point of the frame through which we view reality. If that is the case, then we can solve this problem by making the process of creation the main focal point of our frame. What effect will this integration have on our view of reality, the choices that will become available to us, and the actions what social and political forms will emerge as a result of our new vision? A short presentation cannot provide detailed answers to all these questions. Such answers will require efforts by many individuals. This presentation will necessarily have to limit itself to most general remarks and observations. The first observation one should make is that the process of creation does not work on the basis of consensus. That is, by emphasizing commonalities and excluding difference. On the contrary, differences play a very important role in this process. In the process of creation, differences are not suppressed or eliminated. The creation of new and more powerful levels and forms of organization require the integration of difference, not their exclusion. As Piaget demonstrates, in the course of their early development, children combine different and incommensurable sensory motor functions to create a new form of organization, symbolic thinking. This example shows that the process of creation works by combining differences into a new and more powerful levels of organization, thus conserving them as its particular cases.